We got some massive news out of Winnipeg as top prospect and former first-round pick Rutger McGroarty wants out of the Jets organization, and a trade will happen within the next week, according to a Winnipeg insider. Kent Hughes is in the perfect position to make a swing for this young star. Plus, we talk about Zeev Buium and Arpon Basu's thoughts on how he could maybe even surpass Ivan Demidov when it comes to the Habs pick. All of that coming up on this episode of Habs Digest, and we're going to start, Jesse, with Arpon's talk. Now, we actually spoke a lot about this yesterday, and hey, if you're more interested in Rutger McGroarty, which you probably are, feel free to skip ahead. Hey, I don't judge here. Go take a look at that. It's going to be really interesting. But this is cool too, because we spoke a lot at length yesterday, Jesse, about Zeev Buium versus Ivan Demidov. Who is better? You know, you got the offense from both of them, really, and all this stuff. And Arpon actually had a really great article today. I'm going to link it down below. Go take a look if you're an Athletic subscriber talking about it. And I wanted to go over some things that he said, because he did a deep dive. He provided video. He basically said with all the defensemen the Habs have, it's not hard to see that none of them are quite like Buium, and also that defensemen like Buium are extremely rare. You generally can't get them outside the top 5 in the draft, and he goes on to say the Habs are only in this position because the draft is so rich with defensemen. But he also says when Hughes says, Kent Hughes, all things being equal, they prefer to draft a forward, the exercise makes this calculation very difficult to make, but if Lindstrom and Demidov are both gone, it becomes a much simpler decision, though Salayev could still be there in that situation regardless. Jesse, it seems to not just be us, it seems not just to be some fans or people at The Athletic, it seems to be that Zeev Buium is starting to change people's minds. His offensive upside is starting to, I think, get his rarity as a player is starting to get people a bit more excited for him. What do you think?
Great article, but I disagree with Arben that if both Demidov and Buium are available at 5th, that you go with Buium, right? Obviously, we've been going at length about Zeev, like as much fun as that name would be to say, every night, kind of every day report on the Habs, obviously the point production in his draft year is unreal. Above Lechinov, above Owen Power, above Quinn Hughes even, right? Which is absolutely unreal. Like, we know there's so many process players, skate so well, but for me, it's just, 6'1", but still could use 6 foot, but could still kind of use a little bit more weight. Like if this guy was like 200 plus pounds, a little bit more of a goal scorer rather than point maker, even though we know the point production is unreal and a right shot, I would say even if a Demidov is available, okay, now you got to consider that because obviously that's elite, but that's next level and what we're talking about. But because of those things, being on that left shot, not the hugest defenseman. And I feel like Lane Hutson can get us that point production that we need, even more, that puck carrying ability. They even kind of remind me of each other in some ways like that. That's why in this case, I definitely go for a Demidov. But I mean, obviously, Zeev Buium has been a late riser if we're kind of tracking him over the course of this year still. But, obviously he's deserving a spot at this ranking. But for me, I got to take Ivan if we're at that 5th spot.
And that's fair. And, the more I think about Zeev Buium, people say, oh, look at his upside. Right now, he played a bit of right-hand defense in college. And we know Cayden Guhle has played a bit of right-hand defense at the NHL level. And if you project down the line, I mean, you still got a lot of lefties. You'd have Guhle, you'd have Buium, you'd have Hutson, you'd have Xhekaj, and you'd have maybe some other guys if you don't trade, right? So one or two of those guys are going to have to play the right side. And we're talking about upside of Buium being close in point production to Demidov. That's in an ideal situation where he's getting all that run as the top pairing guy. Would that situation arise that fast in Montreal? If he's good enough, it definitely could. But would he even get the minutes? So while I'm still definitely on Buium's side, there's a lot of discourse to be had here. Go take a read of Arpon's article and let us know your thoughts down below. But Jesse, we're not going to hesitate. You said something about having a fun name to say. My gosh, it doesn't get much better than Rutger McGroarty. That's not made up, I promise. But a lot of you guys probably know about him because we've mentioned him in some videos before, talking about some players the Habs could maybe target. And Murat Atis posted on The Athletic, well, it wasn't just him, Jesse. It was originally Elliot Friedman on 32 Thoughts who said he was hearing Rutger McGroarty in trade rumors, and then it started to pick up and up and up and up. And of course, Murat Atis finally said this in The Athletic. He said the Winnipeg Jets 2022 first-round pick Rutger McGroarty is likely to be traded, a league source told The Athletic. And at the end of his article, I'm going to link this down below as well, I'm under the impression that a trade is coming and soon, likely before the draft. It seems like a perfect storm emerged that the Jets' patient long-term approach to player development combined with McGroarty's NHL ambitions in a way that led to differing opinions that could not be overcome. Jesse, Rutger McGroarty, he's an insanely good player and he wants playing time. He saw his teammates, his friends in the NCAA, getting guarantees to play in the NHL? See Frank Nazar get a chance, right? He saw someone like Matthew Nyes go immediately to the NHL, whether, last year or whenever that was, but still, he's seeing this happen, and the Jets didn't want to do this for him. And if we take a look at his stats, 52 points in 36 games. He had 18 goals and was point per game as a freshman. He had 9 points, 5 goals in 7 games at the World Juniors while captaining the team while recovering from injury. There is very little I don't like about him. He's 6'1". He just turned 20. Is this not exactly what Kent Hughes and the Habs are looking for? It's basically gift wrap for them if they can make it happen.
Absolutely. This is exactly what Kent Hughes should be looking for. This is a beast of a player. I've liked his game for a long time. I think it speaks for itself, right? Those 52 points in 36 games last year, right? But we're seeing like a situation. He's not the only one, right? Obviously, very much that size that we need would be so complimentary. Again, kind of fits that profile of that playoff type performer. Again, high leadership, culture, which really fits with this team. It makes me think like, with Winnipeg, obviously they're looking to compete, and it makes sense. He wants to be in that top 6 sort of role. It's like, I think not only does this apply for Rutger McGroarty, but also potentially to Cole Perfetti as well. Those could be 2 potential names that the Habs could be linked for that fit exactly what we're looking for. And I mean, we've seen just an example of something similar not too long ago with Gosse, right? Where he's getting patient. He wants his chance, and it's good to kind of be patient and draft, in grooming your prospects, right? But at a certain point, you got to find that sweet spot there, right? So, this could be very much for the benefit of the Montreal Canadiens. I really, really like the profile of this player.
Yeah, exactly. Like a 6'1" guy who plays a bit of a power forward game, is a very solid playmaker, but at lower levels especially was a phenomenal goal scorer and still was scoring quite a bit in the NCAA. Like, he was on a team with the likes of Adam Fantilli, right? There's a lot of other people on that Michigan team that were quite good, but Rutger McGroarty still stood out as being a guy who just looked like he was NHL ready. One of these guys that just looks like he's playing against kids. I saw in one highlight film from a Winnipeg Jets channel, they basically said, look, he looks like he's playing against kids out there. But it's not just that, Jesse. Like you said, the leadership is huge. And actually, Cam Robinson, their Hockey Robinson, of course, of Elite Prospects, he said this on Twitter. He said, I knew something was fishy when Rutger McGroarty decided to go back to Michigan for a 3rd season. He's clearly ready to come out. If he's dealt, some team is getting a real asset on the ice and in the room. Kid's a serious leader. Now, I've already made up my mind that if the Habs don't get him, I'm going to be disappointed. But Jesse, there's going to be a bidding war. I'm seeing Leafs fans saying, well, let's try and get him. Because of course, why not? Red Wings fans. I'm seeing a lot of people suggest Pat Verbeek might pony up and give a nice price to reunite him with his friend Cutter Gauthier in Anaheim. And they have lots of assets to make this happen. It's not just going to be Montreal at the table. Montreal doesn't necessarily have kind of the high-end talent that Winnipeg probably wants for a playoff push. Though a guy like David Savard could very well fit that team style defensively. You package that with a bunch of picks, and I know people are going to say Winnipeg doesn't want picks if they're contending, but you toss enough in there, Jesse, you can sweeten the pot. That's the whole reason Kent Hughes has been stockpiling all this stuff. The Habs are in an amazing position to overpay more than other teams in a situation like this to get the guy they want.
And it's very rare in a situation where I'd be comfortable doing that. But this is absolutely one of those. If you're looking to really potentially help to solidify and secure the future of this team, right? It's very few players that really fit that profile where there's something that kind of goes awry and now they're no longer part of that team's future, for whatever reason that may be, right? So when these opportunities come up, and just with that, you have a little bit leverage. So the asking price right there is going down still, even though it was tremendously high to begin with. You got to feel like this is helping Kent. I know in that intro video, we see sneaky Kent, right?
Oh, yeah.
He's got that look on his face. So I think he's definitely looking to make something happen here.
Oh, I'm so excited for it. And I know Montreal's not the only team. It just feels like this is the kind of thing we've been waiting for. A young 20-year-old player with incredible pedigree becomes available. You have all the assets in the world. You maybe don't have exactly what they're looking for, but you can sweeten the pot. I'm excited to see what happens. Let us know your thoughts down below on Rutger McGroarty. I think we're sold on this guy being fantastic, but we'd love to hear some of you because I'm sure there's some people who maybe don't want him, but hey, we'd love to hear from everyone down below. But that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Thank you all for watching every single day. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.